how to live a pain-free life. We are all experiencing pain in our lives because life brings pain. It's not possible to avoid pain. And normally we try to find ways to avoid pain or reduce pain in the outside world. So, for example, we are fighting with another person, and then we are saying to that person that it's his fault or her fault, and she or he has to change in order to make the situation better. Or we have a disease, and then we try to find to reduce this pain of this disease in the outside world. So we try to find a solution for that in the outside world. And in this video I want to share with you why, in my experience, this cannot work, and why with that attitude we can never live a pain-free life. In my experience, it's possible to live a pain-free life, but there has to happen a big shift inside of you. It's not something that you can find in the outside world. There is no solution to reduce that pain in the outside world. It's all you can find in the outside world is just temporary. So you can say to the other person that you have to change, and then the other person might change and it will get better and there's less pain. But sooner or later you will meet another person, and then you will feel exactly the same pain as before. So this is no solution for the long term. And also with diseases, you can find some medicine, a different kind of diet. You can find things in the outside world that might help you for a while, but in my experience they are also no long-term solution. So this pain will come back to you in another form in a later time, because in order to live a pain-free life you really have to go to the root cause of all that pain. And in my experience, the root cause of all that pain is lying inside of us. It's the identification. We identify with people, with situations, with emotions, with things. So we are attached to all of that, and that attachment and identification with that brings that pain. Because if I'm not identified, I don't have that pain. So it's on me to look into myself and see that kind of identification. And if I can get a distance to myself and I can de-identify, then it's possible to live a pain-free life. So what is that identification? I want to share an example to make it more clear. If we stay with that there is another person that is saying something to you, somehow you are triggered and get very angry, or you get very sad. There is the question, why you get angry, why you get sad? Because somehow the person said something that is triggering something inside of you, because you are identified with something. So, for example, a person is saying to you, you got a lot of weight, and then you are triggered because you have that identification with your body. You have that pattern in your mind that you are thinking that you have to have less weight because all the society is telling you that you look better if you are thin, and all this kind of mind patterns are somehow a kind of identification, and that's why you are triggered, and then you are getting angry or you are getting sad, and again you are somehow identified with that kind of emotion. You're not having that distance where you can step aside and see what's happening, and because of that you're feeling that pain and in that moment. Or for example, you go to the doctor and he's saying to you that you have a very bad disease, it's not healable, and then you get very sad because immediately you identify yourself with that disease, and you have that kind of mind patterns already inside of you that there exist diseases that are not healable, and you get into that emotional state where you're not having that distance to yourself in that moment. You are that kind of emotion, you are identified, and that is causing all that pain. Because before the doctor told you this, you might be even not experiencing any pain, but then you get identified with that idea, and that actually is causing the pain. There are people that are saying, for example, I'm always angry, but I don't know where this anger comes from. So they are already that much identified with that kind of emotion that it's very difficult to step out of it, and all that pain comes from that identification. Because if you can step aside and watch yourself and see that, then that anger disappears. So it's your identification with that emotion that is causing that pain that you are experiencing. So identity means that you are gathering all that idea of what you are, how you are, of all that thoughts, emotions. That identity is causing that pain because everything that comes to you that doesn't fit to that identity triggers you. Then you are experiencing these emotional states not because of the other person that is saying something to you, but because of your identity and your attachment to that identity, and that is the root cause why you are experiencing all that pain. I want to share a real life example from my life. As I went to the doctor and they said to me, you have this chronic thyroid disease, it's not healable. I was very sad. And then I tried to find ways in the outside world how I could heal this disease. I tried a lot of different diets and stuff until I realized that this will not heal me because it's a chronic disease. That means it's already existing since a long time. And then I realized that there are these deep rooted patterns in my mind. They are already became my identity. So it was not easy to have that distance to them because they are already deep rooted in my life. They are part of my identity and they are actually causing that disease. So it was not possible to heal by only changing something in the outside in form of diet and stuff. To really heal, we need to go to the root causes of that disease to realize that I'm that much identified with that patterns of the mind, that thoughts that come with it, that emotions that are inside of me. They are the real root causes of that disease. To realize that brings a big shift because then it's possible to become free of all that pain that is connected to that disease. But if you're having a disease since a long time, it's already part of your identity. It's absolutely necessary, in my point of view, to de-identify from that in order to heal at the root. All that pain that comes with that disease, in my experience, is rooted in identification. Because if I'm not identifying with that pain, with that disease, with that kind of thoughts, feelings, then in this moment I'm completely free of pain. So it is possible. If you are not identified, then if somebody comes to you and is saying something to you, you are just indifferent to it. So there is nothing inside of you that is triggering anything, any kind of emotion, because if you are not identified, it's not possible to be triggered by something. So you're just there, you receive that, whatever that person is saying to you, and it's okay for you, and that's it. So that pain that comes is because of that identification inside of you. It's not because of the other person, and it will not help to change the other person. The only way to become free of that is to get that distance to yourself and to de-identify with all that thoughts, feelings, and with everything that is gathered inside of you that you think is your identity. Then you become that pure space, very open, receptive, but nobody can hurt you because everything somehow disappears in that pureness of that space. So you're kind of like an ocean and somebody's throwing a stone into that ocean. On the surface there might disappear some ripples, but that stone is just disappearing. That wide ocean, that pureness remains. In that kind of state, of course there exist waves on the surface of that ocean, and you can watch them, you can see them, but deep inside of you, you remain like in the depths of the ocean, just silent. For me, then it's only possible to really listen to someone, because I often have the feeling that if I'm talking to somebody, this person is not even listening, and I can understand this because he or she is identified with something inside, and there's always that process running of, is it right or wrong? Is it correct, not correct? If we are free of that identification, we can really listen and accept the opinion or insights of other people. We can receive them and just be okay with it without having to react, to judge, to prove anything. And this state is very relaxing, healing, and it gathers so much energy inside that it's possible to use that energy that we normally lose in fighting for something to create something or to do your tasks, whatever you have to do in your daily life. It's kind of like a completely different way to live, and it's very relaxing and peaceful. But of course, in the beginning, it might be not that easy. Even if it sounds logical or it makes sense to you, for me, it's a process to come into that state because we are very much identified with many things and thoughts and stuff. There is so much inside of us. To always stay in that kind of de-identified watching space where we have that distance to ourselves, it's not that easy, and it needs some time and practice. And what helped me to come into that state is meditation. I'm sharing a lot of different kind of meditation techniques on my YouTube channel, but there are also so many other different kind of possibilities in this world. So if you're interested in that, you will find whatever feels good for you and is helpful for you. I can invite you to just try it for one day, half a day, some hours, to come into that space and where you watch yourself. So you are doing your daily stuff and you're trying to watch yourself why you are doing all these things during the day. You can make that experiment for yourself and see if you have a glimpse of what I'm sharing with you today. Maybe you have already some meditative experience, but I think it's a very interesting and life-changing experiment to try to stay for one day in that unidentified, watching, distant perspective, and have some distance to yourself, like you are imagining you are watching a movie and you are watching one day your own movie and then you can see what it brings to you. I think it's very interesting. To integrate meditative practice into my daily life helps me a lot. It's a deep de-identificative process, I feel. We can, let's say, clean ourselves of all that patterns in the mind, of all that ideas that we have about ourselves, about other people. And by practicing meditation, we get free of that attachments that we have. And it's not that we are forcing that. It happens automatically somehow if we are integrating meditation into our daily lives. And it's not only my experience. I've watched so many videos and seen and talked to people that have the same kind of experience, that attachments can drop by itself if we are starting to look inside of us and to practice some kind of meditation in our daily lives. So for me, it's possible to live a pain-free life, but that doesn't mean that there are not challenges, difficult situations in the outside world. So there will always exist, let's say, painful moments in the outside world, but we can live pain free even if we are in some kind of situation like that, if we get the distance and de-identify. That's the key. And then whatever comes into our lives, we are de-identified, so we are not experiencing that pain. We are experiencing, but in a completely different kind of way, and that way is pain-free. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it could be an inspiration for you. If you are having your own experiences with that topic, it would be very helpful if you can share it in the comments. I wish you a beautiful day and hope to see you in the next video.